Well, Lucy and I just got done doing a walkthrough of this fantastic farm in Pepin County, Wisconsin. Tomorrow, a lucky owner purchases this farm, and it's been his lifelong dream to own a place in Pepin County, an old farmstead just like this. But as I was walking through the property, answering all the questions, I thought there's a couple things that folks should consider if they're going to buy a farm like this. So today, on today's episode of The American Landman, we're going to talk about the finer points of buying a hobby farm like this. You know what, a great old house. This house has been standing for close to 100 years. This house was built probably around 1920, at least in the early 1900s. And when you buy a house like this, you almost guarantee that you're going to be doing some work in here. It may need a new roof, new siding, new foundation, new mechanicals, new septic, new wiring, a lot of considerations. And if you're not super handy, you're going to be paying somebody to do that. In today's market, finding somebody that can actually do the work can be difficult. So if you're going to take on a project like this, make sure you have the ability to do it and the budget to handle the job, because these old farm homes typically need some work, and you're going to be spending a lot of money to do it or finding somebody to do it for you. Next is the buildings. You know, an iconic old barn like this that stood 100 years is fantastic. Nothing better than I like to see than to come on an old hobby farm and see a beautiful barn like this that's been well maintained, bright red, just a nostalgic old barn, because there are fewer and fewer of these standing in the Midwest. The snow is bringing them down every year, so I love to see these old barns. But this is going to take maintenance. And when you start to take the animals out of these barns, for whatever reason, they start to just disintegrate and they die. It could be, I've heard it could be from the methane, it could be from the heat that the animals put off, or it could just be the fact that they're not useful anymore and they're not maintained. But either way, if you have these old barns and you maintain them, it could be the gem of the farm. And when you go to resell this property, it could be something that really draws the people in. But the truth is they take a lot of work to maintain. Now this one, it's got the cinder block foundations, you can see. And that's usually the point that I start with when I look at these old farms, because as soon as that foundation goes, that's when the barn comes down. Now the cinder block is going to last longer, but a lot of these old farms have the old sandstone or limestone foundation that they harvested that rock somewhere on the farm and built their own barn. So look at the foundation, look at the roof. This one needs a little work, the paint. If you can maintain and fix up these barns, I tell you what, there's nothing better. But if you don't have the budget, it's going to cost you to tear it down. And then there's buildings like this. This was once used as a sawmill. And for years, the owner kind of had a hobby of cutting down timber off of the farm and then coming in here and sawing logs. And when I sold this farm, there were stacks and stacks and stacks of solid oak and walnut and maple. And just, you know, I had a lot of good years working out here. But this building has seen its lifetime. You know, it's still salvageable. It'll probably stand for another 10, 15 years. But the roof is starting to soften. You can see the wave of the lines, and it's, you know, probably going to come down. So if you have these farms that have these old buildings, you know, what do you do with them? Well, it can be as simple as lighting a match, burn it down, pile it up, and, you know, bury it. But some of the townships and some of the counties have restrictions on what you can do to these old buildings, and they may require you to take all of this material, because the roof, as an example, or the asbestos that may be in it, can be considered a toxic waste. So be careful about thinking, I'll just light a match to this and push it over and burn it, and that'll be the end of it, because you may be spending money to clean these up, to remove them from your farm. And if you're wanting to enhance the beauty of your farm, kind of give it that fresher appeal, you're probably going to want to get rid of these old barns, because they just aren't serving any purpose. So before you buy a farm, be aware of what you're going to do to this old building, because it may cost you money. You know, more and more, I'm seeing these old grain bins that are on these farms, and they're small, they're not really serving much purpose. And believe it or not, there's a movement that you can repurpose these old grain bins into so many things. If you go on sites like Pinterest, you're gonna see all kinds of great ideas, making gazebos and bars and even outdoor buildings. I've seen them convert these old grain bin silos on Pinterest into houses. So when you see these old grain bins, there's money here. Maybe you can have somebody come in and tear it down and put it back to use in some unique way. So don't overlook these little hidden opportunities that might return some money back into your pocket after you bought your hobby farm. Okay, and then the final opportunity here is, where can you pull some money off the property? You know, if you work with me as a land specialist, I'm going to talk to you about the multiple ways that you can earn money from the property. Obviously, you can take crops off of this property, and in most of the counties, what I typically tell my clients is to estimate $75 to $100 per acre crop rent. But you can also get timber value off the property if the trees in the forest need some cutting. And what you can do is you can enter it into the Managed Forest Law Program. It's MFL. Here in Wisconsin, there are two versions of the MFL program. There's MFL closed and the MFL open. And this property happens to be in the closed, meaning no one else can come onto the property, walk it, hunt it, or do anything. And in exchange for that, it reduced the tax debt load, and they took some timber off this. So the owner had a consulting forester come in. They cruised the timber, marked it, and then they hired a logger, and they came in and they've cut this timber. And this money goes right to the owners in the form of a really hefty cash check. So, you know, it can be a great source of income if the timber's there. Not every property has a good timber, but this one did. So consider the timber value on the property. It could really put some cash in your pocket post-sale. Well, we've got this deal done, and we have a happy new owner that's going to be buying this hobby farm. You know, these types of farms, these generational family farms all throughout the Midwest, they're becoming fewer and fewer. And if you can find one of these, you've really got a piece of history that you own here. But it doesn't come without some responsibility, both financial and physical, if you will, knowing the work that's going to be done and the finances it's going to take to do these, to maintain these farms and farm them. There's ways to make money from them, there's maintenance to be done, and there's upkeep that you just got to stay on top of. And so if you're thinking about buying a farm like that, you really got to take that into consideration and be ready for the task. So I enjoy selling these farms. There's fewer and fewer of them available, and in this county, in Pepin County, Wisconsin, frankly, they just don't come up very often. So if you're looking at buying your own hobby farm, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and it's kind of, you know, giving you some food for thought of things that you're going to have to do and consider when you're buying your own farm. And hey, if you'd like to talk about finding a farm, or perhaps have me find one for you, you know, give me a call. I'm in western Wisconsin, and I'd love to talk to you. And if you're in another state, and I can set you up with a land specialist there, so give me a call. As usual, I hope you'll like, share, and comment. You'll hit that subscribe button down there and follow me. Make sure you hit the notification too. When I put these farms on the market, you'll get an early notification. You can find me at Instagram at #WisconsinLandman, or on Facebook at Neil Hogger Land Specialist. As always, folks, I appreciate you watching and tuning in each week, and we'll see you next episode. I'm Neil Hogger. I'm a land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate, and you've been watching The American Landman.